I think that when you teach, there's an interesting debate in teaching. Do you teach the person or the subject? And usually my answer is yes, because you have to be able to, you address both. To negate one is to not to do your job. So by teaching a student how to take information and apply it, you're empowering them with a lot more skills than just how to sing a high note. You're teaching them to problem solve. You're teaching them to learn about themselves and how they function. How eager are they to engage you to get more information? How eager are they to start to teach themselves? You're empowering them so that when they go out in the world, even if they don't get into this field, they at least have certain skills, communicative skills, social skills, skills connected to this field that will allow them to do something in the field. Well, at this age, dealing with a freshman, I don't really know if they're going to make it to the Met. I think if they come in with specific vocal abilities and they come in with that drive and personality and optimism and they progress at a certain rate, then throughout the 4 years here I'll have a better picture of where they're going to go. I don't think that I'm qualified to sit here and say you'll never sing at the Met. In fact, I don't think I'll ever say that. I don't think that that's not written anywhere on them. I'd like to think that everybody has the ability to get where they want to go. Some of them get halfway through this program and say, you know, this isn't for me. And certainly, if they've made that decision, my next job will be to say to them, well, what do you want to do? Let me help you discover that. Many of them go into a field that's related to this. Many of them will end up teaching, which horrifies them. Yeah. Well, when you have students who are in your studio, you can deal with that a different way, but this is how I deal with it. And the look on their faces, oh, I never want to do what you do. You know, I don't want to teach. But some of them do. And some of them, like myself, had careers singing and then came to teaching, and I love it just as much as I do performing. I teach them a very proactive pedagogical stance, because what I try to empower my students to do is solve their own problems. I try to send them out with a set of tools. You always need somebody else's ears every now and then. But I try to send them out with a set of tools so that when they go into a practice room where they're getting ready for an audition and something isn't functioning quite right, they have a list of things that they can go through to loosen that problem up, to address the problem, and to alleviate it. I think the most common problem that I have to address as a teacher of young singers is to get them to let go of old habits so that better habits can be instilled. So many students come into this program result-oriented. They come in with a sound that they identify as theirs, they own it, and it's usually pretty much about that big. And I say to them, well, why put yourself in a small box? Why don't we break down the walls and see what other sounds you are capable of making? And this is a difficult thing for them to do because it's like stripping away their identity. So you do it very gently. And you allow them to start to experiment with different sounds and different repertoire. And then very gradually they begin to relax into the realization that they aren't in a little tiny box, that they can do other things with their voice. They can be a versatile performer. They can sing a little piece of Scarlatti, and they can turn around and sing Night and Day. They can sing Broadway Baby, and they can sing a piece of Ricky Ian Gordon. They can be that versatile. Now, in the musical theater world, there's a lot of typing. I am this type. I am a belter. The musical theater world, more so than the opera world, really categorizes these students. So I also have to be cognizant that that's what the world is asking of them. So once I go ahead and break that down and build the technique, again, put them in the process of learning and ask them to stay in that process till we get to the end of the 4 years where we arrive at a result, their result. So keeping them engaged in the process is often hard because they're impatient. I want to get out there on that stage and make a big sound, a big impressive sound. Great, but for now, let's make moderate sounds that will enable you to strengthen your instrument so that you can get to that point. Getting there to be patient is hard. No, my teaching doesn't differ at all. My approach doesn't differ at all. The specific things that I ask a voice to do might be different. I'm going to be more apt to ask a musical theater student to sing a straight tone without vibrato than I am a classical voice student, because most classical voice students sing with vibrato all the time. Initially, every voice should make vibrato. Vibrato is nearly a manifestation of healthy singing. And then there are certain styles where you control it by means of taking it out. So that's a concept that might be different. I'm going to be asking my musical theater students to sing with a little less resonance and a little bit more volume than my classical voice singers who are singing with more resonance. So their concepts vary. Because in our program we do something that I'm particularly proud of. I wrote and introduced a class called Vocal Production. Something that's always bothered me about teaching voice is it seems to be a lot of smoke and mirrors. We claim since we can't see it, it has sort of a mystic quality. Well, you know, dear, you should spin the sound behind your eyebrows and it will come out. And I'm saying, well, you know, that might be a good way to describe how it feels, but that's not actually what happens. So let's talk about what really happens. So every freshman in this program takes a class called Vocal Production. It's one semester, and they learn the history of the voice, the physiology of the voice, and the function of the voice. And we're in an age right now that's very exciting to be a voice teacher because there's so much voice science out there. There are people studying the function of the larynx. There are people studying acoustics. And all of this is incredibly relative to today's singing voice. So every singer should be empowered with this information. There's no reason why a singer shouldn't know how the voice functions, just like a brass player or a reed player knows how their horn functions. So these kids know how the voice functions. When they go to a laryngologist, if they have a problem and the laryngologist says, well, your arytenoids are swollen, they know what the arytenoids are, and they know what they do to function to create a sound. So I'm trying to put out very intelligent singers who understand the function of their instrument. I think the only acoustics that I'm really interested in are the ones that are created inside the body. Those acoustics don't change. They are changing constantly while you sing, but those frequencies that identify my voice don't change. So I'm primarily interested in the acoustics at the instrument and within the instrument. Students get into a very live hall or with microphones, and they tend to relax and kind of start to croon. That's a danger. I'm very excited about the fact that, with the idea that I can work with a music technology program here and get our students used to using microphones. That's very important because the music theater kids are going to be going out and somebody's going to strap a mic to them in their hair or on their clothes, and they're going to have to deal with what's coming back. They're also going to have to deal with the fact that someone's in a sound booth altering what's coming out. And that goes back to the original problem that I was talking about students coming in having imitated another singer. They're not only imitating the end result of that singer, they're imitating the result having been fed through a soundboard and put on a recording. So all of the glitches or sometimes even the unique sound has been taken out. So that's problematic. But again, the acoustic of the inside of the voice stays the same. Most classical singers will sing in an acoustically live, somewhat live place, but they too will find themselves in an audition or in a studio situation making a recording where the acoustics are pretty dead in the room. Then the only thing they have to rely on is the feeling and the sensation that's going on inside the body to prevent them from trying to over-sing, to create an acoustic that's not there. I had a wonderful conversation with another teacher named Jeanette Lavetrie, who does a lot of teaching here in the city for musical theater students. And she was talking to a sound engineer for, I think, Beauty and the Beast. And he found out that she was a voice teacher and made a remark that there was one singer in the cast who, whenever she came out on stage and sang, he sat back and didn't do anything. only to find out that she had classical training. She knew how to fill that harmonic spectrum with sound, and he didn't have to add anything. In fact, he would turn things down a little bit because she was relying on resonance to produce the sound and not volume. Sometimes I go to shows here on Broadway and I'm so discouraged because everything seems to be the same color and it's all loud and it doesn't seem to matter about nuance. Even the love ballads are so loud that I think there's no intimacy in that at all. They can hear it across the street. So it's very discouraging when you work so hard to build nuance into the voice and then you go in and you hear a live production that's being fed through a soundboard and it's gone. It's pretty sad.